Hello, everyone. Welcome to GameSense episode 6. Can you all believe it? It is, the last week of events that aren't the district championships or championships? I can't believe it. Went by so fast. I'm Stephanie Morrison. I'll be your host today from 1983. I'm here with my husband, Evan Morrison from 1983 and 971, Ty Tremblay from Team 319, Francis O'Rourke from Team 190, and our special guest this week is Trent Weatherby from Team 987. Trent, why don't you introduce yourself for us really quick?
All right, great. Thanks for having me. I'm Trent Weatherby. I'm a mechanical engineer for Pensar Development in Seattle, Washington. I live in Eastern Washington, and I'm a mentor for Team 987 in Las Vegas, which is all done because of Skype and high-speed internet. I was also a drive coach for 1 year for a kind of a now defunct team that was here in the Tri-Cities. So I just mentor 987 now.
All right, well, thanks so much for joining us. I'm really excited about our show this week. We've got some great topics and excited to hear what you have to say about them. So, with that, our normal disclaimers apply. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for taking an hour out of your time to spend with us tonight. We hope that you think you're using it wisely, and we really appreciate you joining us. Please send your questions to us at FRC GameSense on Twitter or FRC GameSense plus question at gmail.com. And we'll do our best to answer them if we can this week, and if not, maybe get to them next week. And also, we don't take ourselves too seriously, so neither should you. Obviously, what we're talking about on this show is just our opinions, and if you don't like them, go ahead and prove us wrong, and we'll have more to talk about next week. With that, let's talk about what we're doing this week on the show. We're going to do our Week 5 recap, and then we are going to move on to... in our Week 5 recap, we're going to be talking about some good things that we saw this past week, and then we're going to talk about some other things. We've got some video to show you to spice up our segment a little bit. Then we'll be doing our community topic. We're going to be talking about upsets and the dreaded Death by Serpentine. Then we'll be doing our Week 6 preview, which is going to be rolled into our Looking Forward segment. We don't have a video from Looking Forward this week, but we will be discussing what Looking Forward wanted us to talk about and sort of pose that as a question from Looking Forward, and we'll discuss that. And then we'll do our Q&A. We've got a few great questions from a few different teams and a few different people, so that'll be a good segment this week. And then we've got our Robo weather forecast back this week, and it's a good one, if I do say so myself. I had nothing to do with it, so it's not that arrogant of me to say that, I suppose. Then we'll do our We Pick 'em. It's going to be the same format as last week, where we each do a different event, and I think that went pretty well last week, so we're doing that again. And that'll wrap up the show this week. So, without further ado, we will move on to our Week 5 recap, and Evan is going to start us out with that one.
Awesome. All right. Well, I just want to say I didn't get a whole lot of chance to watch very many events. I was competing with 1983 at the Auburn District, but I did get to see a little bit of Hawaii video. And 368, oh my God. This team is phenomenal. They took a year off last year. They'd been, one of the regular top teams in Hawaii. Before that, they were one of the consistent performers out here on the West Coast regionals back when they were competing at Oregon and Silicon Valley. I remember them from my high school days. And they have a monster of a machine. They've got a 2-ball auto. They've got, it's almost a 16 clone twin this year, but they drive it like nobody else. That swerve is just, they did a swerve in 2010, and they did it again this year. It's fast. They're dodging around defense, and it's almost 17-17 2012-esque in where they get to their spot and they fire, and the ball goes in. So I just wanted to give them some major props, and I know nobody had really seen them before last weekend, and they're competing this next weekend at Silicon Valley. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but they just upped the stakes at Silicon Valley by a mile. Mm-hmm. So I think Dave has a link, if he hasn't posted it in the chat already, of them just dancing all over the field.
To me, it looks like they spent their year off driving a Swerve. They're that
Yeah,
comfortable
no
with
kidding.
it.
It's the same thing, yeah.
So, Hawaii doesn't always get that much recognition if there aren't a whole bunch of out-of-towners coming in, but keep an eye out for these guys. They will be at championships, and they will be at the top of the pack at championships. I don't know, Trent, did you get a chance to see much this weekend?
I went up to Ellensburg on Saturday to watch the Central Washington District event, and pretty interesting. There's a team there. There's another guy from Pensar who mentors Team 4061, Cyborgs, who you guys have seen at the Spokane at the Cheney event, and boy, they're another team here in the Northwest that just made huge improvements this year. They're really impressed. They've got one of the top bots in the Northwest, and hoping they make it to the championships as well.
I'd like to point out that 125 managed to fix their voltage vacuum.
Yes.
They didn't have...
Oh boy, did they fix it.
Oh man, they got the same thing that 148 does. They got that little baby hula hoop that goes over the top of the ball. I don't know which came first, 148 or 125, but they're both white. They both act the exact same way.
I think it was actually 33 that had it on their bot first back in the...
Oh really?
Back before ship, but yeah, it's
Okay.
we're seeing them pop up.
Yeah, and I think that helps a lot because the whole catapult thing is, you can't hold on to a ball really tight and shoot a catapult at the exact same time. It doesn't happen, and that seems to be the fastest way to, let go of the ball before you shoot it, but maintain control of the ball for as long as you possibly can. Trent, did you get a chance to see what I'm talking about?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
But,
there's a little baby white hula hoop that is sitting in the front of the robot,
okay.
and it flips backwards over the top of the ball when they have the ball in their belly, 148 and 125. And I think it's pneumatically actuated, either that or it's on a motor and it's really light. And then as soon as they fire, they flip that up, but it's also attached to their catapult, so it moves with the catapult, so they never have to get it completely out of the way. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. We ended up putting an arm on our intake that does something similar, but it's not attached to the catapult. That's pretty slick.
Mm-hmm.
And now, Trent, your arm is actually powered, right? You've got some little powered wheels on it that move the ball all the way through. And is that pneumatically actuated, or is it just on a spring?
No, it's pneumatic.
It's pneumatic. Okay. Yeah, that was a little clever bit that I noticed on your robot that was kind of cool. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, most of it's got a similar spinning bar style intake to a lot of the other robots, but a lot of teams have to pull their intake in to get the ball all the way in, and then extend it back out when they shoot, and that causes the ball to be sitting loose. And so what 987 does is they actually leave the intake out there, but they've got a second set of roller wheels that's pneumatically attached, or that's pneumatically actuated, spinning off the intake. And so it actually is on top of the ball when it's sitting in the proper position in the catapult, but when they fire, they just rotate the wheels out of the way real quick right before they fire. It's a very clever little system.
Yeah, and they use it to position the ball at different points on the catapult too. Changes the angle that the ball comes out, and so they can change the angle that the shot comes out for a truss shot or close-up shots versus the long shot. So it was, I think it was a pretty clever improvement that they made.
I'd like to give a quick shout-out to another team from New England, Team 177, a team near and dear to some of our hearts.
Yes.
Did a fabulous job at their last event. They should be commended for the first time since, I think, 2006. They won one event early on this season, week 1, I believe, and they won their second, which makes them one of only a handful of robots in New England to have won multiple district events. So big props to them. We'll be seeing them at the district championship, and hopefully we'll be seeing them at the championship, which of course means on Einstein, but that's neither here nor there.
Now I didn't get any time to see 177 compete. Did they make what improvements did they make between Granite State and last week.
I actually didn't get a chance to see all that much of them either. To be completely honest with you, Ty.
I'm sorry
I
to
was
put you on the
actually
spot like that.
No, it's all good, bro. I was in a car between here and Minnesota, which managed to exactly miss every single event between here and Minnesota, which was fabulous. But I just figured I'd give them a shout out because they're doing good. I heard that they did improve, and as we all know, the Bobcats always do better when they have more practice, and I'm sure they got plenty of practice between then and now. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have a really fantastic machine this year. They have for the last several years. You know, for a while there, they had a really great robot in 2006. Alliance captains on their division, won a regional, and then 7, 8.
Were they even that good in 2007?
They were decent, you know.
Yeah, I mean they were really. I mean, it was a good robot, but they weren't top of the pack even in New England. But they did make it to championships on the pre-bid, and inevitably they ended up on Einstein. But really, basically since 2011, we've seen them really up the level of quality and competitiveness of their robots. And up until this year, that kind of hurt them because they weren't making it to championships because they weren't actually winning their regionals. They were just getting to every single finals. And now they went to the district system. I said it in week 1. I thought it was going to be good for them. Good job to the Bobcats. They've definitely stepped up their game again. They won 2 events. Really want to see them at championships.
And in the interest of full disclosure, Francis alluded that this team is very near and dear to our hearts. And for those of you that don't know, in 2007, 177 won the World Championships with 987 and with 190. And the 4 other people in this call were all on those teams at that time. I wasn't on 190 yet, but...
I wasn't on 190 yet.
Oh, you weren't?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
It was just me and Francis.
He joined the next
He
year.
missed it by
That's
1 year.
right.
But
Close.
legacy
Yeah,
lives
definitely. Another event that I wanna talk about. We've got a couple other events that we want to highlight, but in Mar, at I think it was Bridgewater Raritan, there was actually the winning alliance won the first finals match in a 2v3. I didn't get the video to link, so Dave doesn't have it, but it's really, really, really hard to win a 2v3 match this year, and they just pulled off some amazing teamwork while their alliance partner was fixing some stuff, and then they brought him back for finals match 2, ended up losing that, but winning in finals match 3. Really great matches. If you only watch one match from this past weekend, that's a good one. It's some cool strategy for a 2v3 round to pull off the win number 1 in a really tough finals match.
Mm-hmm. I think we also have a video from another event from Northstar along with a question. So I will roll that video right now and read the question while we're doing that, and then we'll discuss it. I'll play it a few times, and what we're looking for, I believe, is in the bottom right hand of the screen. So keep your eyes down there, and I will read the question. This is from Ryan Swanson on 4607 CIS. He says, I was wondering if you guys could review the semifinals for Northstar. It ended in some controversy when 2175, the fighting calculators, got caught on a broken field element. Them getting stuck directly caused 2175, 967, and 4607 to lose the match and the semifinal. I want to know if the correct call was made on the field. Thanks for doing the show. It's a lot of fun to watch. So thank you, Ryan, for sending this in. We're getting a lot more people sending in video clips, and that's really awesome. Really helps us show this on the show. But what do you guys think about this call?
So just to be clear, if you can't quite see it in the video, the little plastic piece that goes over the gate had come off of the side of the field and was sitting on the carpet, and they got themselves caught in it. And at almost every instance I've seen of that ever occurring, they've normally called that a field fault and had the match been replayed. I don't know the specifics as to why they didn't here, and I'm really curious why.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed here in Pacific Northwest, I've seen the gate come off a lot more frequently this year than in past years, and I think it really has to do with the positioning and the angle that that teams are coming into the low goal at, that they're scraping along that side, and just, the more times that you're there, the more likely it is going to be to come off. In most cases that I've seen, it didn't really affect anything. Nobody got caught on it. and nobody continued trying to score on the low goal there, and it just they ended up not replaying, not foghorning, and just letting it go. And that's that's a more iffy call than I think this one was. You've got a robot that's stuck on part of the field that isn't where it's supposed to be. Didn't function like it was supposed to. That part isn't supposed to come off.
Mm-hmm.
I as well. I'm not really sure why it wasn't a replay case. It seems pretty clear to me. But the referees obviously discussed it at the end. I saw another angle, and you can see them all discussing it. So I wasn't there. I don't know what their reasoning was, but they clearly discussed it and had a reason for why they didn't call it a field fault. And while I don't necessarily agree with that, that is the referee's decision.
Yep. I remember a few years. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where it did affect the outcome of the match too. There's been cases in the past where matches have been replayed where in the rules it says if it doesn't affect the outcome, you aren't going to replay it. And I think this is definitely one of those cases where it did, and I think it should have been replayed.
I remember specifically a few years ago this happened quite frequently, and they added the little piece of Velcro that the hooks hook onto, and the piece of Velcro at the base of the side rail, which helped a little bit. But it's still, whenever there's something on that side of the field that people want to get to, those gates are still free game to just pop off as the game plays.
Yeah, and I think that you bring up a good point. They added the Velcro, but they do reuse the side rails year to year. And I'm pretty sure they haven't changed that Velcro since the last time they added it. It's like some of the Velcro hair fuzz is longer than my hair.
Ugh.
Yeah,
That's
a good
image.
point, Ty. Is those may actually just be wearing out.
Yeah.
I know, but even if you look at previous games, right? Last year, what was the reason to be over there? It was if you were just you weren't going to scrape along the wall. You were usually sticking pretty close to the pyramid. If you were coming over to load, again, you weren't usually scraping up along that wall. You were coming in against that angle. So not a whole lot of contact with that gate, or at least not a whole lot of scraping contact with it. 2011, you've got lanes there. 2012 and 2011, you've got lanes there. But again, most robots, they've got this wide lane. They're not scraping up along against the wall to make sure that they hit their spot. So I think it's really a function of the game and the field design this year that's exposing this weakness that we're seeing across the board. In this particular case, I think the wrong call was made, but hopefully that'll be a lesson for future weeks and for championships that when that thing comes off, if there's a robot stuck on it, or even if it just keeps a robot from being able to get to the goal, that they're going to foghorn that match or at least decide afterwards to replay it.
Yeah, there was one case last year where there were robots in that area. There's the fullbacks protecting the full court shooters right there.
Yeah, that's a rough situation. But I think it's time for us to move on to our community topics. Like I mentioned before, we're going to be discussing upsets and the dreaded death by serpentine.
Dun, dun, dun.
The DBS, if you will. So, Trent, I believe you have a little experience with that and might want to start us off with this topic.
Sure. And I got thinking about this after our call on Sunday, prepping for the show, when you guys had talked about the Peachtree regional where all the Blue Alliances won all the matches. And so that got me interested in looking at the finals pairings and the trends over the last couple of years. And so I threw together some charts looking at through week 5 of the past 4 years of finals pairings. Let's see which chart I want to start with. Maybe just that finals pairings through week 5, the first one.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so that's up on the screen for you.
Okay. So the first thing that stuck out to me was in Locomotion how often the number 1 seeds made the finals. It makes sense that you get the number 1 seed gets the best pick, and that was pretty tough to stop in 2011. And I think I don't know if they intentionally designed the games this way to help smooth things out so that the number 1s weren't so dominant. But it's certainly been a trend that's regressed in the last couple games. And it's even more more pronounced. And you look, there's 49 events through week 5 in 2011. This year there's 76. If you normalize that, it's even more pronounced. If there's a next chart on there, Stephanie.
Yeah,
Yep.
we pulled up the normalized one from the get-go. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. So, the 2011 on the percentage, it was over 90%. The number one seeds made the finals. I think the pairings, looking at the 1 versus 2, kind of showed that either top scoring machines were definitely making it to the finals. The trends, I think, this year show that the 1 versus 2, the 1 versus 3 matchups in the finals are certainly less frequent this year, and there's a lot more of 2 versus 4, 2 versus 5. Some of the middle tier, which I think a lot of people have attributed to the death by serpentine. Your third pick is so important in this game that you can't just coast along on your top 2 scorers. So
Yeah, I'll jump in. One thing, obviously 2011 stands out here as being way above the rest. And definitely that can be attributed to the game design, right? For the most high-level play, you had 2 good tube scoring robots, and they split the rack, and one took one half and one took the other half. And then you had 2 mini-bot towers at the end, so they'd split that. So your third robot was really there for defense, but for the most part, if their defense or shuttling, they weren't contributing a large amount to the scoring ability of the alliance. Whereas when you've got a game like last year in 2013, where if you've got a third robot that can score some points in auto and hang at the end, they are contributing points to your alliance even if they're playing the rest of the match as defense. So that part is pretty important. So in this game especially, that third partner matters a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to look at like 2012, where there was more of an emphasis on the cooperation bridge, and some of those finals pairings and seedings are very similar to this year, where there's a lot more emphasis on working with the other alliances. So I think it was an interesting thing to look at with the game design this year.
Now, I read some of the thread on Chief Delphi about Death by Serpentine, and I'm wondering, what's so bad about it, right? Oh no, the number 1 seed isn't guaranteed to win, but that's the whole point of a tournament bracket.
Yeah, it's bad if you're the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think the reigning thought, and Francis, I'll kick you over to you in a second. I just want to say this: the reigning opinion or thought has usually been that when you're the number 1 seed, you should have the best chance to win because you've gone through the gauntlet, you've won the hard matches, you've made it to that number 1 spot. You should be able to pick the best robot, and then and get a good third partner. But on the same token, it shouldn't be a guarantee. You need to give other teams an opportunity because they may have had an unfair match schedule and played and lost against some really good teams. So to make up for the ranking algorithm and how that works, you would hope that it's not always the number 1 seed winning. So is it really a bad thing that so many more or other alliances are making it to finals and winning their events?
Well, and what's the alternative, right? The alternative is the number 1 seed gets the best pick in the first round and the best pick in the second round. That's going to make things really hard for the other alliances.
They did that. Francis can talk about that.
There was a proposal I read on Chief Delphi that somebody said that the second pick should be a random draw. Everybody draws a random number from a hat. Well, that was interesting because the number 1 seed, they can only get better and a better pick out of it. So I don't know. That seems to enter a lot more randomness into this whole equation. But
yeah, I would say that honestly, part of being able to win a tournament, whether it be a district or a regional, is building an alliance. And that is something that people overlook a lot. They assume, like in 2011, and to a certain extent 12 and 13, it's very easy to just pick the best 2 robots by points and put them in and just score a lot of points and win the game. This game is not at all like that. the game has changed. Literally, it changes every year, but this time it changed, right? Bad analogy first, but the game changed, and I think that people are a little shocked to see that happening. There are definitely some number one alliances out there that could have gone further had they made different selections in the alliance in the tournament. And I think that's something First wants as well, because again, the whole premise of the alliance system is teamwork. It's not about letting the best two robots take someone else on a magic carpet ride to the victory circle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I think it's getting a little overstated too, because if you look at the data, the percentage of seeds winning the event has dropped like 5 to 10% between 2013 and 2012 and now, right? It was a little over 60% in 2012. It was a little under 60%, about 65% in 2013, and now it's under 50%. So that's saying that 50% of the 50% of the number one seeds are winning the event, and I think that's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing that's not going stated here, right, is the assumption that the number one seed is the best robot and deserves to be on the winning alliance. And sometimes that's not the case. And I think we may be, we don't have the data on this to pull it up, but we might be seeing more teams declining from the 2, 3, 4 seed position because they feel that they can build a better alliance. And on that note, right, we saw back in week 2, it was such a big deal that 254 bypassed all of these really good, top scoring teams and picked 973 as their number one pick. And if 973 either hadn't been working that day and they weren't going to pick him, they were going to pick a rookie robot. And people were all up in arms over this, but really, they were ahead of the curve there. They realized that they are not trying to play the game with 2 scoring robots. That's not the game that gets played. The game that gets played is roles, position players, and they were picking the best position player for the middle handoff and truss that they could have. And I think teams have gotten a little wiser to that now, but it can't go unmentioned that the entire picking strategy this year has to change. Francis touched on that, but we've seen this. We already saw it in week 2, and it won them an event.
I'm gonna. I don't know if this will contribute the way I'm hoping it does to the conversation, but 2007, 987, 177, and 190 win the world championship as an 8th seed from Archimedes, right?
Yep.
Newton.
Yeah, Newton. Yeah.
Sorry, I was
Who's counting?
I was still in New Hampshire. I hadn't crawled up from under my rock yet. So they won as the 8th seed. So I'd like all 3 of you, and Steph too, if she wants, to talk about how you picked that alliance or how that alliance worked together to win.
I appreciate you
Stephanie
trying to
was
include me,
actually
but
there.
I was actually there, but I was a rookie, and my team was a rookie, and I was just in awe of the fact that. But we did sit right behind 190 on in the Einstein area during championships, and that was pretty cool.
Oh my God,
That's great.
Little
You guys
did
don't
you
know
know that your husband was only a few feet away at the time.
Little did I know.
Yes.
When you mentioned earlier talking about the Bobcats that they were a waitlisted team that year, and actually 987 was a waitlisted team that year as well. As we lost in the semifinals to 190 at SVR.
I remember that.
And lost in the finals to Skunkworks in Las Vegas. So
Stephanie probably doesn't remember that.
I know she remembers that.
I do. I absolutely remember that.
You do?
When you go to your first event and see teams that aren't the Pacific Northwest teams that are on a whole nother level that you didn't know existed, I remember seeing Pink was there, 987 was there, the Poos were there, they picked
Bacon.
us, that was amazing. Bacon,
was
it was an
I think Miss
amazing
Daisy
event.
even came out that year.
Yeah.
That was the everybody go to Las Vegas year.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Anyway,
I think that Francis, maybe you can chime in here, but I think that experience of seeing us at SVR probably had some impact on your decision to pick us, at the number 8. So we were 36th place or something.
yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it certainly was an impact on why we all picked you guys. But I'd like to you brought up a really good point, Ty, about alliance building, and I'm going to touch on that again. We wanted someone like 97 because they were smart, they knew what they needed to do, and they could score the tubes and score them well. And they had ramps as backup. And we also wanted someone like 177, and by that I mean 177 because of the specific strengths that they had. Now, if you had just taken every team and counted the number of tubes they did and sorted a list by the number of tubes they could score or the percentage of successes on their ramps and just picked from there, you would not have built a World Championship alliance. And people do that all the time at all sorts of events. And it's a great, like, looking at stats is always a great first-order sort, but you have to be able to take those and do something meaningful with them. You know,
Absolutely.
and it is exactly exemplified by 177, who you guys were like in the 30s. They were down in the 60s or below, and no one had any idea what they could do or why they did it. And that's why we picked them, because they were specifically unique to what we wanted.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll comment on that a little bit more. Francis and I were both in that picking meeting and both making that scouting list, and we were looking at 177 because we knew that they drove very well. We knew that they could get on our ramps. They had very smart drivers and smart play, and we needed them to put up one tube. That is all they were supposed to do. Put one tube on the other side of the rack and break up the row, and our ramps would take care of the rest. And that's what we were building our alliance around. Even 190, as the alliance captain, our job was to put up one tube and then get back there for the ramps. And we would try and put up more than that. But again, we were designing an alliance around the strategy, around our strengths as alliance captain, and around who we thought we could get for our partners. And it's worth mentioning, at the time that we were doing this meeting, we were the number 1 seed on the division. We ended up losing a match and tying a match the next day, and that dropped us down to the number 9 position. We got bumped up to number 8 via in-picking, and then the rest is history. But we've seen this in other years. I don't think a number 8 seed has ever gone on to Einstein since then. But certainly at regionals and elsewhere in other games, there's been situations where you have to build an alliance. I think 2007 was probably the strongest example, other than this year, though. To some extent, in 2012, with the triple balance being a very powerful strategy.
I think this is a really good time for us to move on to the looking forward topic. It's quite relevant here. So, Ty, why don't you read for us what looking forward has to say?
So it turns out that looking forward is, in fact, a human being. And they have...
We can neither confirm or deny that, though.
Yes. It is, in fact, an entity that A, has to go to work, and B, can send me emails. So they sent me an email, basically saying what they wanted us to talk about today instead of a video. And here it goes. From looking forward, variations in play from event to event occur every season. But given the single scoring object, the diversity in play at this point of the season is mildly surprising. Obviously, event and alliance composition represent a huge driving force in the strategy selection. I wonder what we just talked about. But many events have developed their own characteristic styles of how to play aerial assist. Strategic variety has been driven by matchups, regional culture, drive team execution, and ref crews. I'm curious to see if play styles will be convergent as we approach the end of the season, with a higher quantity of higher quality machines in the district championship events and each division. So, looking forward wants us to talk about the variation in play that we are seeing across the whole world, and whether or not that'll consolidate into one world, into one main favorite strategy as we get higher into competition.
Oof, that's a really tough question looking forward, and I appreciate you giving it to us. But I would say...
Because he can hear us right now. He's omniscient.
Yeah, us, yes, of course.
Yeah.
All hail the Helix Fossil, or whatever he is. I think that my gut feeling, and this is just a gut feeling, I think that we will start to see strategies coalesce more along toward what you would call the triple assist cycle. I think that, especially at the championship, when you have a lot of high-caliber robots that can effectively play defense and offense at the same time. That's just my gut feeling. What do you guys think?
I definitely agree with that.
I would agree with that, and I also think that the defense is going to get better, not as brutal, but better defense. I mean, you're going to have teams that are going to be able to drive better, being the third robot, and even the second row, the midfielder, they're going to be able to drive well, and so I think it's going to mix up the middle a lot more, but maybe not as brutal as it has been. Just aerial assault, as everyone
Yeah.
referring to.
Yeah, I think you're going to see the same. You're going to see 3 assist cycles. Like that's the way to go, because you've got one. All you have to do is get one robot to touch the ball in a way that's convincing to the refs, and that's 20 points. So you're going to see 3 assist cycles. But what I think you're going to see is the variation is going to be in whether or not the 3 assist cycler is on the inbounding or if they're on the other side of the truss inbounding from there. Mm-hmm. And I am leaning towards putting my assist/defense robot on the other side of the truss, simply because that gives you more room to work with. It gets them closer to either side, so they can play defense on the entire field instead of just the offensive end of the field when they're trying to score. Because if you slow down the ball at any point, you slow down the cycle. You don't have to slow it down right when they're trying to score.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to go along the point of triple assists, we've seen teams get away with really fast double assist cycles in defense. I think for the most part, that hasn't been necessarily by choice, but by the teams that are available in the draft and what they think is their best option from a strategy standpoint for the alliance. Again, the alliance that they can put together. And what you're going to see at district championships and at world championships with the really deep fields there is teams that are formerly high first-round picks or even mid to low first-round captains and picks are going to be that third-round partner. And these aren't just the teams that are going to sit in the corner and inbound the ball and spit it out. And inbound the ball and spit it out and don't move. These are teams that are dynamic, that are very good at what they do, that are good at picking up, and that can trust as well. And so I think that you're going to see a shift from having the robot sit in the corner to having 2 robots that are the back bot and will alternate as the situation requires, inbounding from whichever side isn't being defended, trussing to a human player, the other guy running over, grabbing it, and continuing on with the cycle. I really think that that's the next level of play, is once you've got a very capable robot in that third role, that you can play a more dynamic game that is harder to defend against.
What about catching? I think we're going to see catching's going to trend up.
I mean, so it has a potential to do so, and I think it will trend up because at this point it's basically at rock bottom. So it has the only place to go is up, really. I think it will go up, but in the same way, not for the reasons people would necessarily think, right? Like the 10 points is really good, but it's kind of gravy when you consider if you can catch the ball and get it effectively, like we saw at Waterloo. Again, back to Waterloo. You can speed up your cycles.
Yeah.
But it depends on the situation. If you're getting defended, then you probably want to go to the human player and let him worry about it.
I think we'll see more attempts, and as the game changes, and I mean, certain teams that can trust the human player, they do it so quickly that I've seen defense kind of back off from that a little bit and focus more on trying to prevent the human player from putting the ball into the next robot. So that might open up the opportunity for that trussing robot to try and pass it to a robot that wants to catch it and kind of catch your opponents off guard. And I think we'll see that a little bit more.
Now,
we have some really powerful teams in Week 6.
Sorry,
and yeah, go ahead, Trent.
that internet.
Mechanisms are similar to the climbers, from last year, that it's not something you can easily add either. Like 2011, everybody shows up at the championships with the same mini-bot and the ramps. So, yeah, it probably won't.
Or even Stingers in 2012.
Yeah.
Were the same way, yeah. I definitely think we're going to see more attempts with catching. I'm curious to see how this weekend plays out specifically. There's a lot of top robots who may not have demonstrated catching ability yet, but certainly have the capability built into their robot. 254 certainly comes to mind. 1678, I know has practiced it. Hasn't really shown it off in a match other than trussing to 399 for some really amazing catches early on. 33 gave a shot at it last weekend, and 2 weekends ago. They're coming back this weekend. So I definitely think we're going to see some attempts by some of the high-powered teams, and given how stacked some of these events are, I think you're going to get some alliances together that might be looking to try, kind of like Waterloo, pull something out in eliminations that's really prepared and practiced, and try and squeak it by the defense.
Yeah, I
All
think.
right.
Go ahead.
All right. So, real quick, I don't know if you guys remember from way back in week. Let's see, it was week 1 and week 2. Actually, yeah, week 1 and week 3. Team 900 with their secret sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once 1986 and 118, I know it probably was done before that, but that's where it debuted, was the third partner Truss. I think 900 is going to be, like, their secret sauce is going to be hot. Because if you're not familiar, 900 has the ability to sit at the inbounding station and launch to the human player over the truss without moving. So you throw the ball in there, you launch it over, you throw it in the third robot, they spit it out, you put it in, and then you've got a 3-assist ball, and I mean, that's in less than 10 seconds.
Yep, that's
call
going to
them
be
hot
really
sauce now.
valuable.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll move on to our first question of the day. We have a great question from Richard McCann, a mentor on 1678. And he says, the apparent goal of the GDC was to increase participation by the less experienced teams in the gameplay this year. After week 5, do you think that the GDC's goal has been achieved? Do you think the quality of the newer teams compares to past years? How do you think that the GDC might be able to better involve newer teams in field action? How might this translate into improved reliability, strategy, and quality for the newer teams? Now, this was a lot of questions all piled into one, but I mean, let's start off with, do we think that the GDC's goal has been achieved?
I think
I'm
so.
not sure I agree that was really their goal. They definitely want teams working together. I don't necessarily agree that it was intending to bring up the level of play of the lower tier robots, or even make higher seed or higher tier teams incorporate the lower tier robots into their strategy. I think that really the overarching is just teamwork. They wanted robots working together to be able to score more points than 3 robots working alone.
Yeah, but I think in a secondary way, they also made it able for younger or less capable teams to score, to be worth more to an alliance. For example, in 2013, last year, what could a box on wheels do? Like, they could play defense, and that's it.
Yeah.
You can't score a frisbee with a box on wheels. But this year, they can play defense, they can get 5 points in autonomous, and then they can get 20 points in assist cycles if they hurt a ball. So I think I agree with you, and what the GDC didn't step into their meeting and say, all right, how do we make the rookies better? They came in and said, how do we increase teamwork? And just by the nature of the game, the rookies are able to do more because they can be worth more.
Yeah, I think if we look at the next couple of questions that he asked about the quality of newer teams and how that compares to last year, and how are they more involved this year, I think we touched on that a little bit in the episode with Karthik when we were talking about Robot in 3 days, and maybe the combination of those two things, like there's now this really achievable approach to the game that a lot of newer or lower resource teams see as a valuable avenue.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? 4909 in New England was number 2 seed at both of their events, and they can only pick up balls and put them down.
Yeah. It's a very valuable resource to be able to do that. And again, I'll touch back on what Karthik said, is that probably a lot of other teams would have been better off if they had focused more on that than trying to shoot and be the one that finishes the score. What were you saying, Evan?
Yeah, I was actually going to say almost the same thing, but it really comes down, and most people have competed at their regionals already. Most people have seen during opening ceremonies the Dean and Woody video, and Woody Flowers says something. He says it's a really simple game. You have to pass to your alliance partners, you have to put it over the truss, possess the ball, and put it in the goal. And really that's what it comes down to, is it doesn't take a really tuned, powerful mechanism to be a very valuable robot this year. So for that reason, because the low end of being competitive is brought to a more achievable level for more teams because it is such a simple task, that we're seeing higher quality, and coupled with some of the great stuff from Robot in 3 Days and other inspiration sources that are always posted on Chief Delphi of the prototypes that people are trying, that teams had a better concept to start with of what would work, or when their own concept failed, they had something to fall back on.
Yeah. I would still like to see them give the rookie teams a kickstart ahead of. I mean, it's such a huge disadvantage to have a box of parts show up, a game manual, and go, oh, okay, what do we do now? Where if they gave them some parts, some of the standard parts that we use every year, the control system, and let them get some foundation before they start the build, I think that would be something that would help. I mean, you only get that if you're partnered up with, an older team or a mentored team, but not a lot of the new teams have those resources. So,
yeah, that's a very good point, Trent. That it's almost this. It seems as though this concept is sort of fixing a problem that could be fixed better other ways.
Yeah.
But I do agree that I think it was more teamwork that they wanted to go for this year. I really liked last year's game as regard to this as well, because even though it was not easy, you couldn't be a box on wheels and be useful. But just because of the way the game ended up being played out, you could be useful if you had a relatively easy to use or even just a slow frisbee shooter that was reasonably accurate.
Yeah, especially if you could shoot an autonomous.
Yeah.
That was valuable.
I definitely agree, and I've seen lots of examples of great rookie robots this year. In Spokane, the third robot that we picked was basically our collector, 1983's collector, but it couldn't rotate and it couldn't shoot. But it was a rookie team and they didn't have any previous first experience, and they decided they wanted to be able to collect the ball really well and spit it back out and have a lot of driver practice. And maybe the fact that this game they were able to see that easier than games in the past. I don't know. But I thought that was really cool, and I've seen a few robots like that. But I think it's time for us to move on. Oh, any one last thing? That's okay.
I had one more thing.
Oh my goodness.
But I'll let Trent go.
Just one more thing.
Okay, go ahead. I got to look up a team number first. Go ahead, Evan.
All right. So I wanted to mention that I really do, at the very beginning of the season, a lot of people mentioned that this game had a lot of similarities to 2008. And while the gameplay and the rules and stuff, it definitely doesn't look like 2008 when you watch it, I believe that this was an attempt to improve on 2008, because when you watch the game animation from that year, from Overdrive, the concept of the game was teams throwing the ball over the overpass, and another team would get it and bring it around, and there were only 2 balls, and there were 3 teams, so teams would have to work together to get the ball around the field the fastest. And what ended up happening was it was actually faster for the 2 best teams to take the ball around, and the last robot was relegated to running laps. And I definitely believe that the part of the one-ball game this year is an attempt to ensure that teams would have to work together to do it. And you can't do this assist-style thing with 2 balls. It just becomes way too hard to keep track of.
Yep.
But I think this was a natural progression of 2008. And that's my own belief. I don't have any inside info. But I just wanted to point that out there, that this concept existed before. They just didn't have the rules to enforce it properly.
All right.
Well, and some would say they still don't.
So Trent, you had something before we move on?
No, that's all right. That's all right. You can go on.
It's okay. If you want to do it, it's no problem. All right. So our Robo Weather forecast of the day. We'll show that video.
Welcome back from the Robo Weather hiatus, everyone. My apologies for last week. Lucky for me, though, I could not think of a better crowd to pander to for some empathy when it comes to putting things on the back burner in order to help your team get ready to play robots.
This week, we have 3 events for you that are sure to not disappoint. And we're kicking the episode off with the Lost Wages Regional.
Ah, Lost Wages. The entertainment capital of the world. Sin City.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
Whoa there, Obi. You're taking things a little bit too far here. You are right about that caution, though, because the teams at this cantina aren't here to play slots and relax in the pool. With 33 of the 51 teams taking the field having already tested their metal in the limbs this year, the competition rivals the World Series of Poker being held down the street at the Horseshoe. A betting man looking for a safe wager would probably find 987 the most appealing proposition. Since the Las Vegas Regional started 10 years ago, the high rollers have either won or been finalists every single year. And after being handed a loss on a questionable technical foul during finals in San Diego's, 987 looks hungry for a win on their home court. However, if the high rollers want to take another jackpot home from Las Vegas, they're going to have to do it with or through the defending kings of the table in 32-45 and 17-17. The Penguineers are coming off a solid performance, winning the Lost City of Atlantis Regional with their perennial impressive swerve and unique shooter. To add to the big names, additional 2014 regional winners 1266, 399, 2122, 2403, and 2486 will all be looking to double down for a second banner, while 2485, 3476, 1538, 3009, and 60 all hunt for their first. Place your bets, folks. Just like these teams have realized, you can't win unless your chips are in the middle.
You know what's there? Waiting, beyond that beach.
One last hurrah, a final fight, a battle for the ages. That is what awaits us this week. Troy. All eyes in Michigan will be trained on this event as teams make their sprint towards district champs. Oddly enough, though, this event seems to be more of a sparring match for the top teams than a brawl for entry into next week's event. The Killer Bees, Thunder Chickens, the Atom Bots, and Engine Nerds are all playing their third event.
Is there no one else?
Oh, and 469 as well. Even though there are no points on the line, 469 is sure to come out swinging, having just lost the first FIM district event they have attended last week in Waterford. We'll see if Las Gorillas can make a comeback performance, or if 2337 reigns king yet again as they look for the first FIM three-peat of the 2014 season. Not to be outdone, 910 has taken the field for the fourth time this year, hoping to show that practice will make perfect at district champs. While all of these teams are just looking to hone their skills and ready up for next week's Battle Royale, last year's FIM District Champion Alliance captain is still seeking points to make the cut. 3539 debuted a creative and effective machine last week, but did not have quite the lights-out performance that some of us expected. My guess is the Bitin' Bulldogs come out playing with fire in their eyes as they hunt for their invitation to the big show.
What do you got in mind?
The Robo Weather crew would like to announce that we have received an official first PSA in regards to an event this weekend. The Silicon Valley Regional has been renamed to the first annual First California Blue Banner Parade.
Seriously though, in total, the teams in attendance are bringing 10 2014 blue banners with them to competition.
I hate to keep saying it over and over again, but this event, hands down, takes the cake for most stacked regional 2014. 254 will be leading our parade this weekend, coming off wins in Waterloo and the VCR Regional. The Poofs have outdone themselves this year with yet another simple and effective robot that has left much of the FRC world wondering, why didn't I think of that?
Next in line behind 254 is our favorite up-and-comer, 1678, who's also carrying 2 blue banners with them. The Citrus Circuits have come on strong as of late, making Einstein last year as an Alliance captain, and having only dropped 1 match in total this year.
The one match that 1678 did lose, coincidentally, was to their would-be Alliance partner for their victory in Sacramento, 971. Spartan Robotics only carries 1 banner from this year, but they are also one of the few teams to carry 0 losses.
Speaking of undefeated teams, 368 is back from their 1-year break, and the rest seems to have helped. Kikamana Swerved helped carry them to their banner in Hawaii this year, without dropping a single match.
846, 766, 2135, and 3256 round out our banner-carrying brigade, all of whom have strong potential to pair up for another Olymps run.
It's easy to see how deep this event is when you realize that we still haven't listed all the teams in the hunt, like 1323, 1388, 604, 100, 192, and 1868.
Get your seats early. Once this parade starts, you won't want to miss a second. Good luck to teams competing this week,
May your combos be wombo.
and your pick lists be long.
All right, a big thanks to David Navid for putting that together for us again. I think that might be the best one yet. It's definitely a good one, and
It's fabulous.
yeah, and SVR is going to be a heck of an event. Holy crap! I'll definitely be watching that one. So with that, we're moving on to our We Pick 'em segment. Again, I apologize for the wall of numbers, but that's going to be fixed in the next, hopefully next week. We'll have something a little
next team
easier to
update.
look at. Yes, the next team update. So I have picked the Oregon State University District. Actually, first, I'm still winning, by the way. I don't have an overlay that shows the points, but I'm winning. And I got two more teams last week, 359 and 368. Wow, 368, I knew they'd be impressive, but wasn't expecting that. So, with that, Oregon State University District. It's the only Pacific Northwest district this week, and I am picking 1425 Area Code 0 to seed number 1. They have winners and finalists already this season at their other two districts. This is their third event. They've got a pretty cool robot. I'm counting on them to do it again. And 955 Raider Robotics. This is also their third event, and they were winners and finalists with 1425 at the other two events. So, yeah, I think that will happen again. And then my third pick is 5085, the Laker Bots. They were the highest rookie seed at Wilsonville. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens for them. So we'll move on to Lone Star with Ty.
All right. Lone Star is going to be a good one. We got the Robonauts, the Robo Wranglers, Kryptonite, the Disco Bots, Spectrum, and the defending world champions Texas Torque. 118, 148, and 624, among others, all have two-ball autonomouses that'll carry them nicely. But I think 624's two-ball is the most consistent. I don't think it's going to be enough to carry them past 118's superior teleop play, though. So I'm going to pick 118 to seed Ty, and I think 148 will play well, but their troubles under defense will cost them a match or two, and they're going to fall down. So, we've got 118 picking a near-perfect run, picking 624 for their superior two-ball autonomous, and last week didn't work when I actually tried to put some thought into my third pick, so I'm going back to my name ways, and I'm picking Team 5261, the Bob Bots from Houston, Texas, to win the regional with them and take it to the house.
All right, awesome. So next we've got that crazy Blue Banner Parade, Silicon Valley with Trent.
SVR is going to be awesome this year, and I'm picking 254 to seed number 1. No one's come within 100 points, assist points, 254 at both the events they've attended. And there was a posting I saw, somebody put a spreadsheet together of assist points on Chief Delphi, and in addition to having the highest total of 1,350 assist points, they have the third highest assist points per match. So I think the biggest threat to them not seeding first is the match schedule. But I think that in their combined with their 3-ball auto that they've used for two events, 1678's got a 3-ball auto that they're working on, but they haven't shown it in match play yet. So I think 254 seeds first, and I think they picked 368 for the speed and maneuverability. 368 can score just as well, but that maneuverability and to be able to switch from the scoring threat to a smothering finesse defender with that butter smooth swerve drive, I think that'll be a big draw. And then as their second pick, I think they go with 2135, who 254 won Central Valley with as their second pick. And I do think that 1678 and 971 pair up together with their third pick from Sacramento, and it's a number 1 versus number 2 final with the 254's number 1 seed winning.
All right, that'll definitely be one to watch. All right, Pine Tree with Mr. Francis.
Woo! All right, so despite the fact that the name of this regional is Pine Tree, it actually should be a pretty cool event. First off, congratulations Team 125 on doing a great job last week, and I think they're going to continue this week. They got a lot of practice down. They got the robot right where they need it. They got their 2-ball auto working, and I think they're going to seed number 1, just like they did at the last event. I think they're going to pick, strategically, somebody that can shoot over the truss consistently and play defense, and I think that is one of the hometown favorites, 2648, not 2468, 2648, Infinite Loop, also from Oakland, Maine. They were finalists at the WPI district event, and they were very, very good at shooting over the truss and working well and thinking well on the fly. I think their third pick, or whatever, second pick, third robot, will be a 3461. They've got a robot that fits the archetype for what an alliance like theirs would look for. Again, I'm going real deep on this, so I might be completely wrong like I have been every other week, but I think they're going to pick a robot that will work well with inbounding, and that's 3461. Also, watch out at this regional. I could be completely wrong because teams like 319 and 58, as well as a whole bunch of others, are going to show up and do some good work at the event. But I think 125, they got it going on right now. And they got the voltage vacuum fixed.
Yeah, I think 319 and 58 are the only 2 robots I know that are of the ball puker class, in which we take it into our belly and puke it out the top of us.
I prefer to call it the foosball maneuver.
Yep, yeah, that works too. You watch out, we're dark horses.
Yep.
All right, moving on with New York with Evan. I don't think we can't hear you, so... All right.
We had a little hardware issue with Evan's microphone.
Yep. So I'll just read what he's got here, unless he comes back, but it looks like we're not. So I'll read. He's got a little prepared statement here. So he's got 4039, pulled what many thought impossible, and wrestled the number 1 seed at Waterloo from 2056, 1114, and 254 by flashing some serious skills. They picked 1114 but went out in semifinals on a controversial G27, G24 call. After their performance at Waterloo, they are the clear favorite going into New York City and look poised to take the number 1 seed. I think they'll take a strong 694, who will have improved their number 8 seed appearance at Buckeye, where they took the number 1 seed to 3 matches. The 24th pick will be 1660 Harlem Knights. After a breakout year last season, making finals at New York City and quarters on Archimedes, they'll be competing for the first time this year in the last week. Wow, that's pretty crazy to leave it to the last week.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're a great group of people. I've seen them before at Battle Cry, and they always love to have a good time. They always make quality robots. Yeah. So good luck to all of them.
Awesome. So I think now we've got a special announcement from Ty.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Yes. For all of you New England watchers, we have New England First has a nice little, not a surprise. Well, it's a surprise because it was a surprise for me earlier this week as well. But we're going to be doing a top 54 countdown show and a reveal show, much like you see in NCAA when they announce the teams that make it into the bracket and such like that. Is after the Pine Tree is done and all the points, the award ceremony is over and all the points are tabulated and we have the finals, we'll have a webcast. It's going to be 30 to 45 minutes in which we're going to talk about each and every 54 of the 54 teams that get invitations. And I think we might even go up to 60 because of people that can't make it and such like that. So that's going to be at after the Pine Tree Regional. We'll stream directly from there, and you can find out more info at anyfirst.org.
Awesome.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like a really cool thing to do.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So that wraps up our show this week. Thank you so much, Trent, for joining us. I think it's been a great show. Definitely one of our best.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks for the invitation, and go 987.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so yeah, that wraps it up, folks. We will see you next week. Stay tuned for some exciting updates on what we'll be doing. We'll have some special stops we're pulling out for our district championships and championships episodes. So stay tuned for those announcements, and go play robots. Good luck this week. Bye.
Bye-bye, y'all.